So, good morning, everyone. You're welcome to this class on Power BI, building a simple visual. So here we're going to, based on our last class, we're going to just be looking at basic visuals about the employee survey that we worked on. So today, we're not going to be doing anything excessive. We're just going to be looking at how to build a simple visual with Power BI. And at the end of that class, I'm going to be adding one or two tips on how you can also further interact using Power BI. So let's get started. So let's get our data into the Power BI. The data I will be working on, it's already in Excel. So I can go to get data. It's coming up. So it's in Excel, like I said. So click on Excel, go to, so this is the data I want to work on, employee survey. Click on it. So these are the items we have under that sheet. We have employee survey one, employee survey two, sheet three, but this is what we are working on. And when you click on it, you can see it brings out what is in that particular sheet. So we can see this looks like what we want to work with. So that is it. So here we click on transform. We click on transform, and then we begin to transform the data. So by clicking on transform, it brings us to this page where we have, this is the Power Query page. Now in the Power Query page, it helps you, it allows you rather to look at your data set and to be able to do one or two cleaning here. That is if the data has not been cleaned yet, but this data had been cleaned before it was brought here. So we have relatively clean data, except we want to just change one or two things there. So here, naturally, you're supposed to look at each column, look at the completeness of the column, look at the data type. That's the data type. Like from here, you can see it's in one, two, three. When you click on this, you can have different types of data type. You can have decimal number, whole number, and all that. Now we can see that this data is in whole number. This particular column, data in this column is in whole number, and it depicts what we want. Here you have text ABC is in text format, and what you have here is gender. Gender is in male and female, and that is text form. So that means this is okay. Now, one thing I wanted to look at or to put at the back of your mind is the green line just below each column title. You can see here Power BI is telling you that the data from its own point of view is complete because it's showing 100%. Another way for you to look at the information here is to go to view. When you go to view and you click on column quality, it gives you the analysis of the quality of each column. And with this, it really simplifies your work because you can just toggle on and see, okay, do we have any column that is empty or that has error? You can see that it looks like all our columns are perfectly okay. So because like I said, the data has been cleaned before we brought it to Power BI, right? So the only thing I want to change here perhaps is this. This is work-life balance. So we can just include that here. And by changing the data set, so we have work-life balance. Now, another thing I want us to also look at before going to making our visual, right, is to also look at what column from the work I want to do, which column do I really need among all this column? And like I said, I just want us to build a simple visual, and it's going to be just a sheet. We're going to use just a page for that purpose. So in building this visual, I want us to just pick items that we need. So I like using this particular one, choose column. So I want to choose the column that I really need. I don't need all the column. Some people will say remove the column you don't need. but that also affects so in subsequent analysis, it also affects you because you might want to need those, you might need those columns later, right? That means you have to now be bringing the data set into your workspace. I will come to that in later classes, right? So I prefer using choose column. Choose column just enables me to choose the columns that I actually need. So in this analysis, like I said, simple analysis I'm going to be working on, I'll be needing the employee ID. I'm going to be needing the job levels, the experience, the department. Uh, so for this, I think I'm going to need just these three things for now. For now, these are the four items I will be needing. So I'm going to be needing the employee ID, which talks about each employee. Talk about the job levels, experience, and department. I think these four things should be okay for what we want to run for now. So by clicking OK, it gives me only those columns I picked. But these are the columns I want to work with, right? So with this, I think we are good to go. You can see it has told me that removed other columns. You can see here under our queries. These are the queries we have put in. And for us, I want us to also look at this. This query is written here. You can see this is M code. This is the M code. So you can actually type this in yourself. You can actually code this yourself rather than asking Power BI to code it for you. And this is the code here. Take note of that. So with this, we can now close and apply. We can close and apply. So by closing and applying brought us to this page. So now you can see we are in our visualization page where we're going to build our visuals. To build visuals with data. So we are here. You can see the data we have cleaned is now here. Another employee survey, you can see because we only picked four columns. Those are the four columns that are here. So now with this, I can begin to build my visuals. Now, the first thing I want to look at is the number of employee in this organization. The number of employee. And to do that, I'm going to use CAD. Now, you know that here, these are the visuals that you can build under Power BIs. Of course, there are more. If you click on get more, we'll come to this in our next subsequent classes, right? Where you can build more visuals. So we're going to look at all this together. But in this class, we're going to be looking at just these visuals. So I'm going to be using this. I'm going to use CAD to build the number of employee in this organization. So with the CAD, it can only contain one item, and the item is employee ID. Don't forget, if you look at the initial stage of our data, looking at our data, we know that there's nothing like employee name. What we have is employee ID. Employee ID represents each response from each employee as employee that responded to the survey. So by clicking here, it will give me the number of employee. You can see count of employee, number of employee in this organization. So that should give me here by clicking there, you can see. So my number of employees is 2,768. Now, the beauty of Power BI is this, right? Beyond this, I have said, oh, this is not looking the way I wanted. Now, what Power BI allows you to do, right, is to help you to also design this visual the way you want it. So under visualization, you can see this is where we build our visuals, right? Now the next thing, that next one is called what? Format visual. It helps you to format your visual. How do you want your visual? What do you want to look like? So if I don't want this count of employee to be there, under this category label, I can just simply off it, and that is off, right? Then under this colored value, I can decide to do too many things with this. But what I'm actually particular about, like this, like that, is the visual. The visual is these numbers and everything that is contained in it. So you understand, that's why I was able to remove that number under the category label, right? Because the category comes with the visual, right? The call-out value is the value, that's 2,768. I can actually design and reformat it here. I can try to change it to Calibri, it to change the figure to Calibri, right? I can bold it, I can change the color here, you understand? And I can do all sort of things there. Now, but when it comes to the general visuals, other things like the background, everything is under general. And the tiles, I can try to put an heading. I want the heading to be at the top. I can come here and click on title. and give it the title, number of employees, right? So it gives the number of employees and it gives me that heading. I can decide to, also format it, format the font. I can decide to use Calibri, you understand? And I can decide to center it, to put it on the center, the alignment, align it center, I can bold it, I can increase the font size, right? So I can do so many things here. And then again, I can decide, right? Let me reduce that. Don't want it to be too big. This is okay, and I can, let me just increase to 14. Yeah, 14 is fine. Perfect. So now I can decide to, now I am done with the font of the site. So I can click on the title. I'm done with the title design, right? I can look at effect, the background. I want the background. I want to change it to black, to gray, whatever you want to change it to. You can do that here. You understand? You can do that here. You can try to change it to black, you can decide, oh, I want it gray, I want it, any color you want actually. And then because you have changed the background to black, that's affected the title. You can go back to the title, right? And change the color and change the color to white so that it become visible, right? And I'm done with that. The next thing I want to look at is to look at job levels. What different categories of job levels do we have, right? I want to use a pie chart to depict that. So I bring job level, bring it into the legend, and then it is also the value. So it gives me the visual for the different job levels I have. I have senior, I have mid, I have junior, I have lead intern. So this is the categorization of the job levels, different job levels that I have. I would have loved to have the um, there's something I would have loved to have that is not here. Rather than analyzing the employee by job levels, I actually want to know, for instance, those are a full-time employee, contract staff, and others, and that is not in this my query. So what do I do? This has thrown up another dimension because I don't want to analyze this based on this. I want to use this visual for something else, right? So I don't want it to be this. Now I want it to be the categories, or no, not category, the types of employees that we have, right? And that is not here. So I need to bring it in. So that means we have to go back to our Power Query. So to go back to your Power Query, what you simply need to do is to go back to transform data. So I click on transform data. So we are here. So I'm going to, so we are now on this page, our Power Query. So we'll go back to choose column, right? So we'll go back to choose column. All we need to do is to add um, um, employment type. This is it, employment type. So I click on OK. It will add it automatically. You can see. So let's just rename it to employment type. Employment type. Right? And then we can close and apply. So now we can see that employee type has been added here, right? So like I said, I want to replace this with the employee type. I want to know the type of employee rather than knowing job levels, because the visual I want to be for job levels are different. So I'm going to remove job levels. So I want it to be employment type. So here I can see that we have full-time, contract staff, and we have one that is zero. I don't know why that is that. Then we have to go back to our transform data and see what the problem is. We're going to do that, but let's just move on for now. No, let's go back and do that. Let's see. Something must have happened. There must have been a non-value that we did not pay attention to. So we have to go back there and look at it. Now, it's good that some of these um, challenges are popping up because it also helps us to know how we can work on our data when we have issues in our visualization, how we can go back and look at what we did not do right. So let's go back to our Power Query to look at what the problem was. So, so let's see what is happening within our query. So let's start from this column and see. Do we have zero value? Do we have, can see it's telling us that limit of 1,000 value reached. Okay. That's because we're not using the paid version. So it said list may be incomplete. Load more. Let's see load more. Can see. You can see where the problem is here. We have a non value. We have a row with non value. So let's remove that from our data set. That's why we're having that zero. I want to believe so. So let's look at our other columns. Um, experience level 0. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Customer service said load. Let's load more. See, we don't have any issue. We don't have any known value. Let's load more. No known value. So I think this must have been the problem where we have under job level where we have known value. So we remove that. So now we can let's close and apply and see where we go from here. So let's close and apply. So we are back here. So let's see. So let's refresh and see. So now we've refreshed, you can see that zero is off. So I believe that null value is what affected our visualization, our visuals. So now we've seen that we have full-time. This is full-time, part-time. We have 1,898 full-time. We have part-time, 579, and we have contract staff there. So you can see. So with this here, you can also look at, okay, our heading. We don't really like the heading count of. No, we don't need count of. So we can come here, like I said, this is where you can format your visual. So we go to general. We're not going to be engaging in too much visual. Let's just look at the basics, right? So we look at the text, the heading. This is just employment type. Also, another area that interests me, right? So, and this employment type, right? This title, just a minute, please. I can center it so that it can make more sense. I can bold it and I can change. I want to use Calibri. So Calibri, I can increase the fonts and then this is okay. So that is that. So now the next thing I want to look at, right, is the experience, right? I want to see what's the experience. Sorry, I need to correct that. Um, sorry about that. Yeah. So now I want to look at the experience, right? And I want to use a donut chart. Now, if I click on experience and I try to look at the visual in Donut for experience, you see what's going to happen. You can see this does not make any sense. Why? Because there are a lot of experience there. So you can see it doesn't make, I can't derive any insight into this. One thing you can do when you have data sets where the especially when it comes to age categories and things like that, especially age, it's better you if you want to build a visuals and you want to make a meaning of it, it's better you put them in categories, like in a range. So we can have 0 to 10 years, 10 years to 20 years, 20 like that, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So for this experience, we are going to do that here. So what do we do? Under the experience, you can see more options. Click on more options, and then you go to new group. We're going to group this experience, the number of the experience in using 7 years as our size, as our group size. So I call this years of experience. Let's change the name, years of experience, right? And then we want the size to be 7. So it's from 0 to 7, like that, 7 to 14, 14 to things like that. So we can now we can automatically Power BI, we create that additional um, information for us. You can see it here, years of experience. So instead of having experience here, I will now use that bin that's called years of experience to make better meaning of my visuals. So you can see it has put them into 5 buckets, and I have them here. So I can place that here. I can, change the heading under here, under the title. Let me change the heading to years of experience. So years of experience. So we have that. And you can, like I said, you can do every other thing you need in your data, in your visualization design here. So let me leave that. I'm not going to be going much, going into too deep into that, but that is not our aim today. So the next thing I'm going to look at is employee by job level. I want to look at the employee, and I'm going to use column chart um, to debate that. So by job level, I want to see employee by job level. So I'm going to look at the employee count. What is our count of employees to be on the y-axis, and then job level will be on the x-axis. So this gives me the number of our staffs on different cadres, on different employment levels. So by at a glance, I can see how many employee, how many senior level I have. And the beauty of it is I can decide, right, to let's just change the name, the title. This is employee by job level, right? Let's use caliber and let's center it. Put it in the center. And then we have that. And like I said, there are other things that you can actually do, right? With Don't forget, we can decide to say, because with this now, I can't know exactly what is the number for employee, right? I can't see the level of employee per each level. I can't know the number. I can't, this is almost 1,000. This is 5. But I can just come here and then use data label. Data label will give me the actual figure. So you can see here that we have the actual figures of each levels. So the other thing I also want to look at is employee per department. I want to know how many employees do we have in each department. I'm still going to use column. I'm going to use column chart to also depict that. So still the same thing. I'm going to use employee ID on the y-axis, and I'm going to use department on the x-axis. And this gives me the number of employee per department. And like I said, we can change the title. This is employee by department. And use caliber, the font style, and we can center. And at the same time, I can toggle on so you can see that I can toggle on the data label here, and this gives me my visual. Now, to complete my visual, like I said, simple visual, I'm going to add what you call the slicer, so that with the slicer, I can actually begin to narrow down each department. I want to use it by department actually, and it can decide to be job levels, depends on what you're trying to achieve or the story you're trying to tell. So I'm going to use by department and to see our slicer. So I'm going to include departments in the field, and this gives me the various departments that we have. And then you can as well modify your slicer, going to settings. You can change, for instance, to tile style. You can see that change to tile style. I can use this if this is what I feel it makes sense for me. you know. It depends on what you want to do. And here I can change the heading, just go back to that same title and toggle on title and decide to put department, right? It will give me that. Can go to the effects and can change the background. I want the background to be this, and do so many things. There are so many things you can do um, with your design. So your design here, this is where you're going to perfect your designs, how you want your visual to look like. So this is just a basic visual. And when you are done with this, you can now begin to redesign. Now I can make all the backgrounds of this my visual. I can change the background to look more like, something that I want. I can decide to say I want the background, to be, let's change it to gray and let's see how the visual will look like. You can see I can decide to change them to, let me choose lighter gray. I like this shade actually. So we can do this, right? So we can do this for all this lighter shade of gray. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's effect that to all. So, and then you see our visual is ready. Like I said, this is just a basic visual, very, very basic. And here we're done. We're done with this. We're going to see the other tips I'm going to be giving us. And I'm going to be uploading a new data set. I'm going to give us 2 to 3 tips that can also help us to interact better in Power BI. So now I have uploaded another data set called Amazon Sales Reports, right? And in this data set, I'm going to use it to give you 2 or 3 tips on how you can better interact with using Power BI. So I'm going to create a simple line chart using I'm going to create a simple line chart using days and amount of sales for those days. This data set is just for some few days, right? So we're going to use this to analyze. So we have date on the x-axis and y. So what since this data set only has few days, it's not even up to a month. So I'm going to just be using going to be referring to the days. So what I'm going to do is to remove the year, quarter. So let's just look at number of days. So here is what we have. So we can see this is what our sales looks like, because it's like I said, it's just within a particular month. So we have this. Now, this is what I want us to look at. Now, with this is just a visual that is telling the relationship between my sales per day, right? Now, if I want to run the analysis to see, maybe I want to look at the trend, I can include the trend line by simply clicking on the on the visual and coming here, right? So you come here under further analysis, you can include a trend line. You can see it's telling us that this is not looking good. Our sales from beginning to the end is moving downward. That's trend line. And then you can perform, if you want to project into the next number of days, you want to do some forecast, you can actually toggle on your forecast. It will give you that forecast that with the way it's going, within the next couple of days, something is not done. This is how the sales will keep going down. So you need to further analyze what the problem is. And also for some data set, like I said, this data set is not complete enough for us to run some other analysis, right? We could have done an anomaly checking, do an anomaly test by including sensitivity and all that. So anomaly will give you further to tell you what are the anomalies that you have within your data set, and it helps you to, of course, to plan and do that. So here you can do forecast. Under the forecast dialog, you have so many things you can do. You can increase the confidence level. You can see it's set as 9. This one is set as 95, which means this prediction, we can say it is 95% correct. So the level of error that we anticipate is 5%. That's what it means. And all those things. So you can, of course, change the seasonality, the point, and all that. You can, do that, do the forecast. Forecast length is 10. You can increase it, you can reduce it, and all that, and all that. So you can do that here. That is number 1 tip. Number 2 tips is that you can actually involve into this data set. You can interact with Power BI in a form of like an AI kind of interaction by coming under insert. You can see under insert, these AI visuals, under this AI visual, just use question and answer. Now, this question and answer helps you to interact with your data set. Power BI, you can interact with Power BI, and Power BI will give you, information about your data set. So let's see. If I ask it a question, like you can see, it has given us some basic question. What is the maximum quantity? It gives us a suggested question. If I click on maximum quantity, right, it's still coming up. Let me see, show a suggestion now. So these are all the suggestion Power BI is giving us. So if I click on any of it, it will give me the answer. So maximum quantity is saying that it is what? 15. Maximum quantity is 15, right? Do you understand? So you can interact, and I can decide to interact on my own and say, I'm not clicking on any of those. I can tell Power BI, I can say, what is the minimum value, minimum quantity. Let me say minimum quantity. Power BI will give me the answer. I can tell it, if it doesn't know, it will tell me, we didn't understand your query. So you must know the query you are. So let me just say minimum quantity. You can see minimum quantity. So it will give you, you can interact with it easily, and it will give you what you are asking for. And at the same time, if you come in here, you can also pick from those you can pick any of those suggestions to you that he made to you. Likewise, you can determine how you want that interactions to be. For instance, you can say, oh, in the data set that I have customer, if somebody else is interacting with the data set or with my visuals and is imputing client instead of customer, I want Power BI to see client and customer as synonyms. You can make that rules here. You can review the questions. Whatever question people have asked, you can actually review it here and give answers to it. You can also teach Power BI the different question and answer within the visuals that you have designed. So you can do that all here. So let's close that. So like I said, you can say count the currency. You can see it's telling you that count of currency, different kind of currency that were used in this data set is true. So you can interact with Power BI. Just that this data set is very small. If I had maybe in a subsequent class, I'm going to bring in more data set and you will understand this interaction. Now, this interaction, I can build visuals from this interaction with a more robust data set. So you can build visuals. For instance, I can tell you that what are the number of customers do I have? It will give me the numbers. I can tell it to list the customers, right? List the customers in this data set. It will list it for me. I can tell it to return the revenue of those customers. It will return it for me. I can ask Power BI to develop a what do you call it? A pie chart with that information. It will develop a pie chart, and that becomes a visual for me, right? So that is that. That is number two. And also with this, I can also interact with Power BI to say, you know what, give me information about this data set. Still under this insert, I can come to narrative. If I click on narrative, Power BI will give me, from here, it will give me the information about, because I'm not signed on. But if you are signed on to, because don't forget, I'm using a free version. If I log on to the paid version of this Power BI, by this default, just that I don't want to use my work um, version for this, I'm using my personal version, right? If I click on this, it will give you the information, every information about this data set. That's why the three tips I'm giving you today. In the subsequent classes, I'm going to give you more tips. Thank you. If you have any question, don't hesitate to send in your question to me. Thank you.